morning. I don't know why I'm so energetic. Are you energetic? This is what's happening. I got a great guest coming for you. So I guess that's why I'm so happy to see you there. So sit back and relax and let's get started. And welcome to the new episode of The Jump.
Good morning, y'all.
Welcome to the Charles Matthews Show.
Good morning, y'all.
Broadcasting live worldwide.
Good morning, y'all.
Welcome to the Charles Matthews Show,
where it always feels good.
Yes, and we're back, and I don't want to waste any time. I want to bring her right in. Let's introduce Maria. How you doing?
I am well. How are you? Keeping safe out there?
That is fantastic. So what you been up to? I know business is slowing down a little bit, but how you doing to keep yourself busy?
Well, I mean, as lawyers, we are always busy just because, life doesn't stop and clients still need us even during difficult times, and especially during difficult times, as a matter of fact. So we have been able to arrange it so that everybody is able to work remotely. And I'm out here in the office alone, holding down the fort, as it were. But we're trying to keep positive, and I wish everybody to just hang in there. We'll get through this.
Well, let's go back. I always like to go back. Tell us about you first. Where are you from? How'd you get into this business? Let's know about you first.
Well, I am from a small country of Latvia, which is now a proud member of the European Union, but was once a former Soviet republic. And I came to Canada in 2000, and I went to law school here and graduated in 2007, was called to the bar in 2008. And for the past, it's going to be 12 years soon, I've been practicing law in the great GTA area and in Toronto more specifically.
So let's backtrack. What did you do growing up, and why did you just know that this is what it is for you?
Well, I have to say, I can't say that I always did. My mother used to say I'd make a great lawyer, but other than that, really, there was no inkling of me becoming one, especially after the Soviet Union collapsed. And for a while there, in fact, for about 10 years, it didn't seem like law had much of an application where I was. So I did not study law. In fact, I went and studied foreign languages. And my first degree is in sinology, which is the equivalent, I guess, of East Asian studies. Has to do a lot with China. And when I came to Canada and I started looking at my career prospects, law just, I guess, appealed to me, and that's how I got into it.
And it just took off from there.
It did.
Okay, so I'm gonna take you back one more time. Can you remember your first case?
Well, you see, when you start as a lawyer, you usually start by helping somebody else.
Okay.
And I can remember the first trial I attended, but not as myself. But I guess that leaves most mark, because once you've done it with somebody and you then have to do it on your own, it's not as memorable. But of course, there are a few things that stand out in my mind.
Yeah, and then that's when you really get going, the bug's in you, and you want to help other people.
Well, that is true.
Yeah. So where are you located?
Our office currently is at Bathurst and Wilson. So we're at 3858 Bathurst, but we are mobile. So we've been known to travel around since for some matters such as real estate transactions and wills and some civil litigation matters as well. You sometimes do need to go and meet the client where they are, just because they are too frail, too sick, too elderly to travel safely to the office. So we will travel, but our home base is at Bathurst and Wilson.
Yeah, and that's one of the key things why I wanted to talk to you. A lot of people, when we talked about, don't think about their will until it's the aftermath. And we want to make sure that people have some good understanding of what's involved, what they need to do. And a person like yourself can really come in and help them get all the details. Because what do you find out that we forget about a lot of stuff? Like what do we forget about that you realize that could help us in the long run?
Well, for one thing, we forget to have a will, right? So, and what people don't realize is that, even in a simple situation, after a person dies, nothing really happens automatically. In other words, it's not because the father died that the son automatically gets, let's say, the house, right? He may well be the only son. It may well be that there's really nothing complicated about the situation. But without the will, you're looking at jumping through quite a few hoops, administratively speaking, before you're able to gain access to the property. So having a will is the first and foremost thing that you want to do for your future planning. Once you are in the process of making a will, some people say, well, you know, I can do it myself. There are things on the internet that allow to do it for free. You have to remember that the software that you use on the internet, or just a template that you got off of your friends, might not account for all your personal circumstances. And the thing is, you don't know what you don't know. Unless somebody asks you probing questions about your circumstances, you might just altogether not know that a certain circumstance has to be written into your will in a certain way. For example, I've seen quite a few wills, well, homemade wills, let's call them, where everything is bequested to the child, and yet there are no arrangements made for the event that the child inherits while still under the age of 18. And that is very important because according to law, a child cannot inherit anything before they are 18, and therefore the will that we create would have appropriate conditions, which are called trust, testamentary trust, that would explain what happens to the child's inheritance in the event they inherit before they reach the age of 18 or age of 21 or age of 25 or whatever the parent feels is appropriate. Because remember, the child can inherit at age of 18, and if, let's say, a child is inheriting a house, it might be a fair bit of money. With the prices of houses being what they are nowadays, it could easily be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, if your will does not specify under what conditions and at what age the child inherits the money, they'll just get the entire amount at age 18. And if you think about it, it may not be altogether appropriate.
So you're basically saying that all that money, one shot, will go to an 18-year-old.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but when I was 18, I wasn't thinking about savings and everything else. Well, so all that money is given to is a teenager at 18, one lump sum.
Yes. And in the absence of a will and your child being a minor, when, God forbid, you pass away, that is exactly what the government is going to do. Right. And that is what is going to happen if you have a will which simply says, I want the child to have it, but you do not put any proper provisions to ensure that it is distributed to the child in a proper manner. Now, another thing that is very important and that people frequently do not know, not that they forget, they really do not know, is that in Ontario specifically, common law relationship does not equate marriage when it comes to the will.
Okay, so slow down, because this is a topic that everybody says, well, that's my husband, that's my wife. We've been together, living together for 5 years.
Indeed.
So in Ontario, your common law in the eyes of marriage, but are you saying not in the eyes of the will?
That is correct. Yes, for the purposes of the state, and in fact, also for the purposes of family law, which is another topic that your listeners may want to just look into. Common law relationship does not have the same status as the marriage. I'll give you a scenario. It's real life scenarios, and they're, more often encountered that they really should be. But if you have a situation where a man and a woman live in a common law relationship and they have, let's say, a child, and the husband, let's say, has another 2 children from the previous marriage. He passes away, he does not leave a will. Now, his common law spouse has no rights whatsoever. with respect to his inheritance.
Nothing.
So what is going to happen is that in the best case scenario, they owned a home jointly, right? We sometimes, when we buy homes and we're spouses, we're allowed to have a joint tenancy. Well, anybody can really have it, but most frequently the spouses would own their home as joint tenants. And then the home at least will pass between the spouses regardless whether it's a common law spouse or a legally married spouse. But if it happens so that the house, let's take a hypothetical where a house was registered to the husband's name for various reasons that may be related to mortgage considerations or any such thing, the spouse, the common law spouse, might very well find herself homeless because she has no claim to the inheritance of her common law husband. That is something that unfortunately happens. It happens a lot, and people do not intentionally get themselves into this situation. It's just that I guess the public is fairly confused about what the difference between the legal marriage and the common law relationship is at this point in time. Now, other provinces have recognized common law on the same footing as the marriage, but it is not case in Ontario as of today, and that's something to be remembered. So if you are in a common law relationship, I do not really, it's not my place to say whether you want to get married, but you definitely need to get wills so that everything that you want to happen is spelled out. Because by law, by statute, it will not happen that way.
Okay, so then question is, how long does it take? So say I want to write one today. When is it legal in the government's eyes? From today, Monday, when will it be legal?
Right. So, well, technically, you could just write it on a napkin and have it signed by two witnesses, and it would still be legal. Now, if you want to be doing it properly, then usually what happens if you would call me today and say, Maria, I do want to make a will. If I have some availability today or tomorrow, we'll hold a video conference. We don't meet clients in person at this time unless it's absolutely necessary, of course, to keep everyone safe. Now, we would have a conversation which would last about an hour, where I would ask all the probing questions that I need to ask in order to make sure I understand the situation correctly. After that meeting, I will write you a letter to summarize everything that we've discussed, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. It's very important that no one misunderstood each other. Once you have the letter, you read it through, you confirm the information that is in there being correct, and you also may want to make some corrections or some edits at that time, or maybe add some information, change your mind about some things. Once you confirm with me that this is what you wanted to draft, we would then draft a will. You will review the draft. I send it by email, and then we would have a signing appointment where we would sign it. I mean, I've done it from the beginning to end as in as little time as 3 days. I have done it in 2 weeks. It really depends on how much in a hurry we are in that situation. Now, with respect to the last signing appointments, we're waiting now to hear from the court. Hopefully this week sometime. They've taken up a case where the lawyers are asking whether or not it would be legal to sign the will over the video conference. And they have done that with an elderly client who, of course, cannot leave the home at this time. We're waiting to hear. I'm hoping that the decision will be favorable and we actually will be allowed, at least for the time of this situation, to sign the wills remotely.
Right.
If that is going to come out that way, then the person doesn't even have to worry about leaving the safety of their own home, and we will be able to complete everything through video conferences from the beginning to the end.
Okay, so I think the major question, and everybody's asking, in the society we live in, we get divorced, we get remarried. Some people have 2 kids in both families. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want you to answer this main question. When the husband or the father passes away, and then the 2 ex-wife and the new wife battle in contention for the will, because they leave most things to this family or to that family. How is it that the one or the other can contest the will, and why can't you contest a will? All right. We'll be right back.
Immigrant Women in Business, IWB, is a non-profit organization bringing together women from over 50 different countries around the globe. These women have now made Canada their home and share a common goal of providing value to their new sisters. Our motto of "We are stronger together" resonates with all members, and with a diverse membership of business leaders, entrepreneurs and community builders, our goal is to make Canada better and provide guidance and leadership to those that follow.
Senior care plans, distinctively customized. Let's help your elderly loved ones live a fuller, more meaningful life by providing them with care tailored to their needs. We provide care that our clients deserve and strive to acknowledge individual rights and legacies, while offering a supportive environment for both our clients and our team. We at Divine Favor Senior Home Care think about family first. Call us today 647-766-5394. We are waiting for you.
Yes, I just want to thank one of my sponsors, Divine Favor Healthcare. They do a fantastic job with the elderly. And if you need help in this time right now, give them a great call. So before we went to break, I asked you about, sometimes the wills get really ugly. People are fighting about the wills and they want to contest it because they think, the person wasn't in the right rind or they didn't do it properly. Well, how does this happen?
Now, one thing that you have to remember is the purpose of the will, and the well-drafted will, is specifically to avoid any kind of contention. In other words, you're drafting the will and you're consulting a lawyer to draft a will in such a manner that you can avoid a situation when your loved ones are fighting over who gets what. Having said that, the conflict can certainly arise. One thing that you mentioned that's very important is the issue of capacity, mental capacity, right? Somebody can come up and say, look, this person was clearly not in their right mind when they changed especially if they're changing their wills, not writing it anew. But even if they did write a new will, there might be questions about whether or not they were actually in the right state of mind to do that. Now, it's particularly important that you retain a lawyer to do that, because a lawyer is trained to have a conversation with the person, with the testator, and ensure that the person is actually in the sound mind to make a will. In the event that there is any doubt, a lawyer might recommend that a capacity assessment be conducted in order to ensure that the person is in the sound mind. And in that case, obviously, if the capacity assessor, who's a doctor, says that the person was okay, then there is very little that anybody can do to contest it later. Also, a lawyer will provide an affidavit attesting to the fact that the person did appear of sound mind at the time the will was sworn. So in other words, when you're hiring a lawyer, that is, part of the job of a lawyer is to ensure that this kind of argument can be averted. But you have to do it before, not after, because once the person passed away, it is now impossible to know what the state of mind was unless somebody was there to ensure that the issue had been taken care of. Now, the other situations obviously are about who gets what and why somebody did not get anything. Now, the will is typically the last will of the person will be adhered to by the courts unless there is some valid, compelling reason to not follow the will. One of the examples could be the claim for dependency. In other words, let's take an example. Somebody leaves money in the will to the adult children from, let's say, the first marriage, but does not leave anything to the minor child that was born in the subsequent relationship. The court is likely to intervene and say that this is not an acceptable way to do it. The reason for that being the minor child has a right to receive support, financial support from the father, whether that father be alive or dead at this point, and therefore you cannot disinherit that child.
So then the judge the judge has an opportunity to look at it and say something's not right here. We should be able to give to both families.
It would have to be something compelling, though, such
Okay.
as this will interferes with other legislation that we have in place. In
Like
other words,
it's all one-sided.
you
So
cannot, yes, you cannot will yourself out of your child support obligations, for example.
okay.
Right? So there are certain things that you cannot will yourself out of obligations that are existing. And if there are arguments to be made that somebody was entitled to your financial support for reasons of justice, equity, or by the existing legislation, then obviously that will be overturned. Again, when you are dealing with drafting a will with a lawyer, it is the lawyer's job to point these things out to you, right? And we would recommend to a client to do things in a certain way and not in a different way, specifically because the will might be contested if certain things are not taken into account. Well, minor children from other relationships,
Right.
being one example, which is, I think, easy to understand.
Well, you have it's obviously you have great knowledge of doing this. You've been doing it for a long time. So if you're thinking about, getting your will done and you have any questions, please do give her a call. And that's 416-307-2070. That's 416-307-2070. Or you can go to the website, and there's a lot of information on the website. And there it is. And what I'm going to do is bring into the website, because you don't do this alone. You look like you have a great team.
We do have a great team. We have been blessed by lawyers and paralegals and clerks and admin staff who are helping this firm to move forward. And you can get all the details on the website.
All right. So let's talk about your teammates real quick. All right. So right there.
Right. So we have, other than myself, we have two lawyers, Sophie Liao, who mainly deals with issues of personal injury, so civil litigation. And we have Victoria Polikevich, who does real estate and wills, and also civil litigation, including personal injury. And then we have Anna Sargsyan, who is licensed paralegal. She deals with various civil litigation matters on the level that paralegals are allowed to do so. She's also an immigration consultant, and she deals with all matters immigration as well.
All right. So look, right there, you have a strong team. For more information, go to their website. There's questions and answers all on there. It says here in your language, you can change it over. So it's not hard to understand of any information you're looking for. So once again, if you want some information, you can actually email her. And I'll leave that on you for right now. And if you notice that, once again, please do give her a call. She's there to take phone calls, to give you some information. And this is a lot of information that I took in that I didn't know about. So, for example, like the common law. So a lot of people are shocked right now. I can tell you that right now. And a lot of people are wondering about their will, and then how to do it, when they should do it. And I guess in the time that we live in, you should never wait too long. If you have a family, you need to get this done.
Absolutely, especially if you have minor children, you have a family, and you are a responsible parent, as all of us are, really. We all love our children. Having a will, having proper provisions in it, will protect your kids if something were to happen to you.
All right. So at any age, you should start thinking about your will. Once you become a father, you have some responsibilities. Start thinking about a will.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So before we let you go, we always do the one thing on this show. It's called the shout out. Is there anybody you want to say hi to? This is your time to do the Queen wave. Say hi to all your family and friends who are watching. Go ahead.
Well, we haven't seen each other in such a long time, so I really want to shout out to all my friends on Facebook and elsewhere, and my parents and my great team who are working hard from home. And to everybody who is maybe feeling a little bit blue, hang in there. You know, you heard the Queen yesterday. We're going to get through it, and we're going to meet again.
All right. Thank you for taking the time. And I know this is great information that my listeners will follow. And for myself, I learned some great things. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, as she said, time is not an essence for you. If you have to make a will, please do give her a call. I'm going to bring her number up one more time. She is fantastic in what she does. So give her a call, 416-307-2070. Just give her a call and said you saw her on the Jump podcast show. You want some more information. And like she said, the team is there. They do a lot of other great stuff. So don't hesitate. As I always say, you didn't have to watch, but you did. We'll see you next time with more great guests. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.
Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is in no way a replacement for legal or medical advice. The opinions contained within are solely those of the interviewers and interviewees and should be received as so. Those seeking help or advice are encouraged to obtain professional legal and medical services.